Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Tonight, a moment that stopped the coffee mugs mid-air, a moment that folded an ordinary morning into something very, very human. Kelly Ripa, radiant, candid, beloved, broke down on air, and millions of viewers felt the tremor. Fans were left terrified after an emotional reveal about Mark. Hi, I'm Your Name, and in this one deep, compassionate look, we'll walk through what happened, why it mattered, and the surprising, hopeful thread that runs through every family crisis. Stay with me, because what Kelly said in that pause will change the way you think about love, loyalty, and what it means to get older together. We'll spend about a minute and a half on each moment, like pages turning slowly, so you have space to breathe, to remember, to feel. This is a story for anyone who's loved deeply, aged beside someone, or ever sat in a living room and wondered how fragile the everyday really is. Let's begin. Picture the set. Bright lights, the familiar rhythm of banter, Kelly's laugh like a bell we know by heart. Then a pause. The camera, as if sensing gravity, stayed on her face. That's when the familiar became fragile. Her smile softened, eyes glistened, and the words arrived differently, quieter, threaded with a kind of exhausted courage. When someone so practiced at performance allows themselves to be small, the room and the world watching leans forward. We often think of television as polished and protected, but television is run by people who live lives off camera. Tonight, that line blurred. When Kelly's breath shortened and the sentences changed tack, you could almost hear viewers in living rooms across the country shift. That moment, candid, unvarnished, is what millions replayed and why reaction turned immediately to worry. But let's not jump to conclusions yet, because what came next reframed everything. Kelly didn't make a long speech. She didn't have to. In 3 sentences, in a trembling pause, she told the audience she'd been through something, not a diagnosis spelled out in black and white, but a reveal heavy with implication. It's the kind of language that leaves space for interpretation. We had a scare. It's been a hard week. We're taking it one day at a time. Those phrases land like stones in a pond. Ripples extend far beyond their origin. For many viewers, those words were terrifying because they amplified a private vulnerability in public. The beauty and the danger of being famous is that private pain becomes collective concern. By choosing careful words, Kelly allowed room for privacy and for connection at once. She signaled trust. She was choosing the audience to share a fragment, and that choice brought out a tidal wave of love, prayer, and yes, fear. But why did fans leap to fear so quickly? Because what we feel for public figures is really about ourselves. Hold that thought. When a beloved public figure stumbles, we feel it as if our own kitchen lights flickered. That's the mirror effect. We project our anxieties onto people we admire. For many in their early 60s, watching with decades of history behind them, a moment like this resonates differently. You've seen friends face surprises, you've sat in hospital waiting rooms, you've held hands through sleepless nights. Kelly's vulnerability becomes a reminder of our own mortality, our own fragile joys. So the fear fans voiced wasn't just about Kelly and Mark. It was about every husband and wife who grow gray together, every caregiver who learns the new rhythm of an altered life, and the listeners who have already been through the storm. Social media amplifies this, of course, turning concern into headlines and compassion sometimes into panic. But beneath the noise lies something much truer, a communal wish that those we love and those we admire be okay. And yet, there's more to the story than fear, because right after the reveal came the strongest thing any of us can do when life tilts: show up. Let's go there. The reaction was immediate and tender. Messages poured across platforms, short prayers, long reminiscences, offers of help. People wrote about meeting Kelly at small-town events, about how her warm approach had brightened their days.
Something remarkable. They turned a scary moment into a warm net. In a world built to magnify division, this was a countercurrent of care. Think about that. Whole communities, neighbors, viewers, colleagues, spontaneously framing their worry as support. There were flowers at the studio door, handwritten notes, and even people sending meals or offers to drive an elderly neighbor to an appointment. Those acts, though small, form the scaffolding of care that a family can lean on. It's a reminder that when public figures are honest, private people respond with compassion. But what happens when the person at the center of this notices the outpouring? How does the family find its footing? We'll look at the couple behind the headlines next. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos, a pair whose marriage has unfolded in public over decades, have long been admired for a kind of tenacious normalcy. They argue, they joke, they parent in view of cameras. They also guard a private life fiercely. That balance isn't accidental. It's cultivated, often by people who've learned that transparency must be paired with boundaries. When someone you love has been your teammate through years of career highs and ordinary nights at home, an emotional reveal takes on extra weight. It's not just a couple story, it's a study of how two lives interweave. Mark, known for his steady presence, and Kelly for her vivacious spirit, are a portrait of mutual resilience. They've weathered public speculation before, and in that history, there's a lesson. Resilience is built in routines, in the tiny acts of care that don't make headlines, but keep hearts steady. Which brings us to an important point. Even famous couples have habits that sustain them. Let's explore those habits, because they offer us a surprising blueprint. If you're watching this and you're in your 60s, you've gathered wisdom from a lifetime of small choices. The same is true for couples like Kelly and Mark. They keep a private language, rituals of listening, habits of patience, time carved out to be together away from cameras. These are deliberate, almost mundane things. Making coffee for each other, a gentle check-in before bed, a phone call when schedules get busy. But these small acts are reservoirs for the big days. When a crisis arrives, those reservoirs are what people draw from. They aren't glamorous, yet they are powerful. So when fans express terror, part of the remedy, the quiet comfort, is remembering that marriages are stitched by tiny, ordinary moments. Not every story needs a dramatic rescue. Many need a steady hand, a kettle on the stove, a shared playlist. That steadiness is often the unsung hero of recovery. Still, sometimes practical habits aren't enough. When medical uncertainty or emotional trauma enters, we look outward for answers. So what do the experts say? Let's hear from the voices who help families through these shadows. Doctors, therapists, longtime friends, they all play roles that the public rarely sees. An oncologist or a cardiologist can explain the clinical picture. A therapist can help a couple reframe fears into manageable steps. And friends can offer practical respite. In moments like Kelly's reveal, listeners often have two questions. What is it, and what can we do? The answer to the second is where community shines. Support doesn't always mean advice. Sometimes it's simply being present, taking a pet to the vet, picking up the dry cleaning, sitting with someone while they cry. For couples who've spent a life in the public eye, these acts are gifts because they restore a sense of ordinary life. That's often what healing needs, a return to the ordinary. And for many fans, understanding how to help transformed worry into action. But here's a twist. Public concern can also bring pressure. Let's talk about how that pressure affects privacy and recovery.